series of warriors and scholars, kings, soldiers, the wise who spread their knowledge across their borders, whether with boats, foot, camels or horses, are relating you an imagery of a history which seems to be distorted. There was something I was never taught when I was in school. I was left with foolish thoughts, thinking Muslims were mere fools. I was never taught that the whole world was almost ruled by these so-called fools. Hold that thought. This I give is the history of Islam, strictly given the facts. Let's pick out a map of a world that you once thought was flat. Back 1,400 years ago, in the Saudi Arabian desert, came down from the heavens holy scriptures to a man to convey the message. His name was Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A man made from mercy, love, wisdom and the truth, inspired men and women to deliver this message right down to you. Through Egypt and Morocco, right down to Andalus, that we now call Spain. I relate, back in the 700s, Europe was in a dark state like men in dungeons. Listen to what the BBC historian James Burke said about the stench of London. He said, people threw their refuse in the centre of the streets. This means feces, urine and whatever filth you can think. Europe was miserable. Filth was visible. They were drenched in superstitions. They were barbaric, hard-headed, but said they were Christians. But at this same time, but out this same place, as we go down, the Muslims entered into the south of Spain. Being a part of Europe, this land was the same, drowning in shame. However, after 200 years, out came an age known as the Golden Age. In this age, compared to London, Spain's roads weren't the same. London had mud huts, not even one street lamp to boast, while Spain was paved with street lights and homes, hundreds of mosques and places to bathe. By the way, these aren't just my quotes, these are words from James Burke, the historian, the BBC host. These are two stories of warriors and scholars, kings, soldiers, the wise who spread their knowledge across their borders, whether with boats, foot, camels or horses. I relate to you an imagery of a history which seems to be distorted. Seriously, this place was beautiful, and it became a place where there was food for all. Whether you were a Jew or a Christian, you were cool. This dry land began to gush with shoots. Thus came up luscious fruits, almonds, grapes, bananas too, and oranges. And in the Arabic language, oranges brought a whole. And what remains next to Spain, the land of the oranges, Portugal. Man, my history teacher was awful. I was taught about myths of all sorts. I thought Muslims were desert men. I thought they were irrelevant. Until I see these so-called desert men brought their intelligence. They taught how to talk eloquent. The Muslims brought their medicines and taught about elements. You want the evidence? Look to our schools and our maths and chemistry bit. Algebra, alkalis, alchemy. Now what type of language has al in it besides Arabic? Great Sahaba that I love. May Allah be pleased with him. Have we got Khalid in here? Any Khalid? No, sorry, Khalid. That would be Khalid. 19, mashallah. I'll give you a biography of the man who was named after, yeah? Khalid ibn Walid. He was a man who embraced Islam and became one of the best commanders an army has ever seen. By Allah's leave, he would lead the army to succeed. He could control his steed with his knees. At the same time, hold two swords, one in each. In his speech, he said, "It's more beloved to me to march for war in the freezing cold towards my enemies than to be with my virgin wife on the first night." Listen to his description. A mighty torso, tall with broad shoulders. He stood out of all soldiers. He had wise thoughts, eyes of a hawk. When he used to fight or when he fought, he accomplished the title, Safe for Allah. Translated in our tongues, this means the sword of Allah. First name Khalid, the son of Walid, is one of the greatest generals in military history. Triumphs and victories used to kiss his feet. He was blessed with a sturdy physique, and eventually his heart yearned for this thing. So let me take you way back before this great man embraced Islam. He would stand for kufr. This means disbelief. At the Battle of Uhud, he would plan to defeat, to shatter the Muslims, to be wrapped up in white sheets. He kept his eyes keen on Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and realized he had a protection from the heavens. When he saw this, so many thoughts were distorted in his mind. Should he leave his warrior's life? Until he had a dream which made him make up his mind. He marched to Medina and left the pagans behind, and saw the face of Allah's messenger and said, "O Muhammad, I testify there's no God but Allah, and you're his final messenger." Allahu Akbar. Next, the first war as a Muslim Khalid took part in. The first war as a Muslim Khalid took part in, he started off as a regular Mujahid. The leader of Rome threatened Al-Medina, the believers' home. So, the Prophet, peace be upon him, sent an army with 3 generals, Zayd bin Haritha, Ja'far bin Abi Talib, as well as Rawaha, and said, if those 3 are martyred, leave the decision to the other Mujahids. So they set out 3,000 Muslims to meet at least 200,000 Romans. They met on a battlefield. Remember, this was real men, and this battle was real. They reached for their swords and their spears. Swords hit spears and spears hit swords. Arrows hit shields. Zayd was killed and hit to the floor. The Muslims roared, "Allahu Akbar, this is for our Lord." Then Ja'far lifted the flag up. He stormed through the enemy. They cut his right hand off. He forced his energy with his left. He held the flag up. They cut his left hand off. He still didn't let it fall down. As his blood poured out, he held it with his legs and what was left of his right and left. He took a final fatal blow. So hence, next, Rawaha's hand clenched the flag, then he was stabbed to death. The flag of La ilaha illallah had now fallen down to the ground. So of course, the Romans thought they caught the Muslims now. Then, and only then, Thabit bin Akram swiftly lifted the flag up. This was intense war. As blood poured and men roared, he offered the flag to Khalid. Khalid humbly put his hands up and backed off. Thabit bin Akram looked in his eyes and said, "By Allah, take this flag into your hand. For this duty there is no other man." Khalid bin Walid took the flag in his hand. He took the lead and fought so fiercely, he managed to break 9 swords that day. He thought of a plan that forced them away. His warrior tactics managed to make the Romans panic. So of course, the Muslims gained victory. This is only part 1. This is only part 1. Not even half of the saga of this great Sahaba, Khalid ibn Walid, one of the greatest generals in military history. I relate to you the stories of those that gripped this theme. May Allah bestow His mercy on Khalid ibn Walid. Ameen.